Hi guys, and welcome back, and today we'll get on with making and then painting the command figures for the Zulu diorama. So the two main figures in the command pack are the lieutenants, so that's Lieutenant Chard and Lieutenant Bromhead. So there's a couple of command figures in the Perry miniature box, but bizarrely everything is around the wrong way on these compared to what it shows in the film. So the pistol holder is on the right side rather than the left side, so that was just a matter of trying to take it off as carefully as possible with a very new and very sharp X-Acto blade and attempting to avoid slicing off the fingers at the same time. So a bit of glue on that will repair all evils, and then just a bit of general cleanup of bits and bobs on the figures as well. The Dremel, I find, with the little burr is absolutely invaluable for this type of work. I just find it so much better than trying to carve it all away, where you can actually do more damage than good. I find I've just got more control using this tool, and it possibly takes a little bit longer, but it's fantastic for removing the belts and the webbing and anything that really you don't want there without doing a huge amount of damage to the figure that you leave behind. So again, it's just a matter of this was actually quite difficult to film because I, as you all know, have got rubbish eyes, and getting the camera between me and it is a bit tricky. And then a little bit of Tamiya extra thin to clear up burn off any of the fuzzy residue, which works beautifully. And this is what you're left with, the before and after comparison. So the base figure, of course, was the same figure, so they're in exactly the same stance. So I decided that I wanted to swap out the lower part to just give them a different appearance. So there's another command figure in there with long trousers rather than boots. So it was just a matter of doing a little bit of surgery with my very fine saw, which I find is the easiest way to cut through these and leave the least amount of damage and remove the least amount of material. A little bit of a cleanup and consistency with the seam lines and the folds with the Dremel, and then the Tamiya extra thin, which is just a magic material. And then I took the boots off the other figure and put those on the bottom part of the legs, and just with Tamiya extra thin, didn't use any pins or anything like that because it won't be under a lot of duress. And then I made the binoculars that hang around Chard's neck and started to put on the webbing and the belt and the other various little straps, and that's just with some 0.5 plastic card and cut incredibly thinly. And what I found is it's best to stick it somewhere and let it dry, and not try and stick it everywhere all at once, and then gradually just stick it along the line until you get to the end. So it's a little bit slower, but it's actually less frustrating than trying to stick it everywhere and have it bouncing off and lifting up and generally driving you nuts. So fiddly work, but it came out pretty well in the finish, I think. So off and running with the painting, and hit them all up with a coat of the grey Vallejo primer, which is my go-to primer. I pretty much use it all the time for everything. And then just started to work my way through. Now I have a weird painting habit, which I've realised over the last few years, is that I typically, for the first coat and blocking in colours, start from the bottom and work my way up. So I've done the boots, Here I'm doing the trousers. Then on to the jacket. And I have to say, it's incredibly refreshing to not be painting in greens and greys and browns. The splash of red is just very vibrant, and it's quite enjoyable. So the jacket, then the face. And I'm careful but not super careful. This is just blocking in the base colours, and that's what they look like at the end of the first stage. Now, for some reason on the second pass, I start from the head and I work my way down. So here, just doing the hair, and the degree of carefulness increases slightly. So I'm not devastated if I go out of the line, so to speak, but I try and keep it to an absolute minimum as far as possible. Doing the eyes, which in 28mm figures is pretty challenging, especially for my ordinary eyes, but at the distance you see them from, or will see them from in the dio, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So pass 2, pretty much got everything there that needs to be there, and it's just really in readiness for pass 3, which is now when I go back and seriously start looking at all of the errors that I've made and any of the overpainting that I've gone into the wrong places. And then we start to get down to this sort of level of detail. And so now pass 4, and that's what I would say is a super detailing pass, where I'm looking at all the little bits and bobs, any final errors, fixing up webbing, doing a little bit of dry brushing with silver or gunmetal, on the pistol, belt buckles and the like, and that is pretty close to being right now. So next few shots are near to right pre-weathering, although and I haven't filmed it, but as I go through that process, if I see anything like the webbing on the right hand side of that guy's got a little bit of red on it, I would go back and fix that up. But by and large, they're called done, ready for some dull coat and then some weathering. So the weathering process is the same as I typically always use on the larger scale figures, just some oil paints, I think a bit of burnt umber and some white mineral spirits, and just splash that over fairly liberally. I tended to try and stay away from the face as much as I could, just a little bit there. Really just want it to gather up in the valleys and the crevices of the uniform and onto their equipment as well. This had a strange side effect on these particular figures, which I'll show you in the final reveal, but I think the acrylic paint on the plastic that these are made of reacted badly to the mineral spirit, so we had a little bit of peeling later on, which clearly I had to fix up. So I also had to paint the remaining line figures. I'd only done half in the first video, and very, very exactly the same as what I did last time around. Painted the bodies separate to the arm that needed to be glued on, glued that on in the position that actually looked natural, and then repaired the damage around the join with some 2-part epoxy putty. And that's good because there's not a lot of sanding that's required. You can smooth that down as you're doing it. And then going back over and repairing the damage that I'd done in putting the arm back on. So all very straightforward, but I did weather these guys with acrylic wash rather than the oil wash, and that avoided the blistering or the flaking that we got. So in the home straight now, I designed the bayonet scabbards in Tinkercad and printed those off on my 3D printer. And they are really tiny, so the detail that looks fantastic in the software is very hard to pick up in the actual physical printing. But once you get some paint on it, certainly much better than the big fat blobby curved things that come with the figures. And these are the shoulder tabs. And again, a mixed result because it is incredibly thin, it's translucent, and it looked a lot better in the software than in person. But I think overall will suffice. I had some variations in the outputs. I think that's more me with my printer settings than anything else, but they serve the purpose. And so that's it. So we'll just have a few still shots, no spinning on the magic wheel today, of all of the figures, and there'll be a couple of arrows pop up where you can see I highlight the peeling that occurred that I have subsequently fixed, but I didn't actually really see it until I was doing the detailed photographic work for the final reveal. So sit back and enjoy, and I'll come back and say goodbye in a tick. So that's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I enjoyed painting these figures and doing the little bit of conversion work to get them to match as closely as I could to the actual uniforms that are displayed in the movie. As far as what happens next, I'm not 100% sure because there's about 4 things on the go. I've got the big Haladonian diorama to do that's got the smoke and lights in the destroyed Panzer. I've got the dio base for the Zulu project to do next. I have got the display stand for the Corsair to finish, and I just got the PE that I needed from the hobby shop in the US that I ordered it from weeks ago, and I think I might go that way. But I still have an overwhelming desire just to build a tank without any pressure of a diorama, just for the joy of sticking some plastic together and painting that up, and I tend to think that's the way I might go. I've got a Stug up on my shelf that has been looking at me in the last couple of weeks saying, build me, and I have sort of got a bit of an idea for a future diorama that might go into, so it'll either be that or I've got a Russian self-propelled gun, which also looks really attractive. So I'm not sure where we'll go, but the next video will be out a little bit faster than this one. So I hope you're all staying safe in these horrible times, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next one. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up and share. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and ding the donger. And of course, leave a comment because I love reading them. Cheers!